Hola, clase. We're back. Sorry, my camera died. But where we're at today in our disconnection, right, with our relationship with nature and why it's so hard, a part of why it's so hard for us in our communities to see ourselves doing things in nature, like activities in nature, is largely because of these realities we've been shown to our subconscious, which has over time generated beliefs throughout our life, shaping our thoughts, our actions, and eventually, upon a moment of self-reflection or realization that may occur, if we're lucky enough to have that, and confront these false beliefs and challenge them and replace them with truth, it becomes an entire avenue and pathway that we basically X out for ourselves. All right, follow me? So throughout this entire conversation, you're going to hear me not only repeat myself probably multiple times because I gotta get better at trusting even the things that I'm saying as I'm teaching, like that you're following me. But I'm just, one of the catchphrases that you're going to hear me say repeatedly is that the environment is us. The environment is us. That is our slogan. That's our logo. That is our brand. The environment is us. So I'm really excited to share more with you on all of that. All right. So, in looking at these images, right? Do you ask yourself, do you feel these images represent or reflect you? Can you see yourself being comfortable in the images that have been depicted, like belonging there? Exactly how you are right now, down to what you're wearing, right? Again, why I'm saying this is, again, for such a long time through history, my own experiences, our own shared experiences, the way in the environment, nature, and the outdoors has been portrayed, the image we often associate with the environment, down to specifically the person that belongs there, is someone who is white, right? Someone who's maybe in hiking boots or in hiking gear, going up some kind of mountain. And really what that term and bigger terminology and point I'm getting at is, for so long in history, there has been what I call whiteness in environmental representation. And that has been intentionally created as a consistent narrative, right? In who it belongs to intentionally. So if we as a people, as a community, never become aware enough to challenge these things that we have been shown, challenge these beliefs, right, of what the external reality is saying in representation, they'll never change. It will become something that's true despite it being false. And I'll just share that, like, while the representation of the environment and who it belongs to, is changing, right? We're seeing more people, especially now with social media, where it's bringing typically underrepresented groups, right, to the forefront. I'm seeing more Black folks who are skiing. I'm seeing more Black folks in really cool outdoor sports that 5 years ago, 3 years ago, I never thought existed. Zeb Powell is an example. There's another young Black young lady who Also is she does skiing. There's so many Black outdoor groups now that are happening, down to even running groups, right? Climbing groups. So I'll say that there has been progress, right? Thanks to social media and showing us that there are groups of us that exist that are doing those things as reminders that we've always been doing these things, if not inventing these things. But at the same time, know that the display of solely the environment in its whiteness, and in the whiteness being associated with the environment, is still the dominant narrative, right? So this false belief and go-to image for many of us people of color when we think about doing things outdoors, right? When we think about activities outside, we already exclude ourselves from these things because, again, of what we've been taught. We simply just haven't gotten to see that representation of ourselves in nature. Like, there was legitimate erasure that has taken place, which has been a part of the agenda intentionally, so we don't see ourselves, right? Even outdoor activities and sports, like, and truly think about it. And I'm going to actually flash up some photos too about, skiing, kayaking, hiking. I'm going to flash up some photos right now. Again, just to show as an example of who predominantly do we see, right? Do we see ourselves? No, hardly. So it really is that deep, right? Because you must consider, how do you then think this shapes our own understanding of who then belongs in the environment, the outdoors, in nature, doing outdoor activities? Who does that belong to, right? If you don't see yourselves. And furthermore, even more systemically, who then belongs in these same careers, occupations related to the environment, nature, or sustainability? It really is that deep, man. It really is that deep. It really is that deep. What the world shows you is telling you in just these photos alone, it truly impacts us in our perception of ourselves, which furthermore then controls our reality, what we know and understand about access to certain things and opportunities. So again, if we can't even imagine ourselves outside in the environment, how can we imagine ourselves in environmental careers, in careers that are about helping climate, clean energy? That's all related to the environment. And hone in on the fact that, again, this attachment between whiteness, the outdoors, nature, the environment, whiteness owning, being the most dominant in these spaces, isn't just a coincidence. All right. Again, I'm in Uganda. Okay. I'm currently in Uganda. And let me tell you, all right, unlike America, unlike the West, for our communities, right, what we see day to day, it's so common to have your own farm, to be growing your own vegetables, to be out there with livestock. It is so common. All right, it's so common. And for the communities in the States specifically, right? For many of us, it would blow our minds. I would probably need to put up some video, but it would really blow our minds to see the day-to-day life of so many people here in Uganda who have goats, who have sheep, who plant their vegetables, who plant fruit. Like, if you don't got land out here, what you doing? If you don't have 100 goats or 100 cows, what you doing? Okay? It's so, I say that to say we have just been so deeply removed, right? And it's so funny too that we call and it's a status, right? We assimilate that our removal from environmental caretaking, right? Gardening, caring for livestock, etc., knowing where our food comes from, farm to table type of lifestyle is below our means, when in reality being out here, my gosh, you're blessed. You're so blessed. You're so blessed. It's abundance, so I have to share that. So this connection, this dominance in whiteness and its pervasiveness in the outdoors, right? Again, isn't a coincidence. It's there for a reason. It's an agenda. It's this mission to sever our connection with the environment. But here's the irony. Even though these external images, right, of the environment, the outdoors, nature, depict what they depict, if we simply look back at our history, our roots, of the environment, of our what used to be very much our day-to-day in environmental care, right? We see that people of color have always been in the environment, have always been farmers, have always been caretakers of livestock, have always been caretakers of the environment, have always been hiking. Like, we are the ones that knew routes, were guided by freaking stars, okay? Knew what the freaking the heartbeat of the earth was like. Like, we were those people. We are still those people. We are still those people. Okay? We are the same people who've discovered so many of Earth's just natural beauty, natural riches that have healed us, right? That have provided for us. We have always been those people. So much so we've taught other civilizations. Okay? Right? So we have to, in understanding who we are, right, in our relationship to the environment, we have to examine where we've come from. All right. I mentioned in Uganda, it's day, like when I tell you it's day to day, it's every day. Wash, rinse, and repeat being outside, being outdoors, right? And there's complexities in that because it's a part of it is out of preservation, but also it's a part of abundance. We've always been there, duly the natural caretakers of the environment, and this hasn't been something that's new. We've been out there before anyone realized we were out there. Simply, over time, it's just been overshadowed intentionally. So, as we reflect on this, before we begin, again, any work on climate in the clean energy space, it's crucial we start remembering who we are, where we come from, and understand that despite the false narratives, the images, the external reality, right, what the matrix has depicted for us to believe in the environment being depicted and looking a certain way and being solely for and accessible for a certain kind of race of people, which have formed beliefs about our own selves. We got to get back to knowing that the environment has always been a part of us. Why? Because the environment is us. More to continue on.